By the way, you can pause at any time. So if there's anything you want to say again or whatever, I can edit it all. So it's all good.
Beautiful.
Okay. Yeah. So just know that. So, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Starting Over podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you here with your ray of sunshine and positivity that I think we all need a little bit more of in our lives, myself included. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shannon. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, where I wanted to start is with the success, or at least success in how society would perceive it, because to grow a community of 50 million followers online is enormous. And reading, you've also had 3 best-selling books, you've done a lot of big things in your life that would be like, congratulations, pat on the back, amazing work. And where I wanted to go is, you say your book, your latest book, The Comfort Zone, is for many a person who is exhausted, an exhausted achiever, who wants to have better results without burning out, without feeling like you've lost all sense of control in your life, or you're not in control or in the driver's seat of what you're doing anymore. And I was really wondering, in the context of success, because we often hear people, entrepreneurs, experts who've had enormous success, but then they tell that their story and the road to get there was paved with those very things: the workaholism, the burnout, the stress, the anxiety. Was that your case as well?
That's such a good question. That's a path that you can take. I feel like life has so many doors and opportunities for us. And based on our belief system, we choose which door we're walking through. And, you know, 20 years ago in my early 20s, in teens and early 20s, I always would push myself to my limits and overload my schedule. I didn't have as much downtime or connection with friends or, leisure. It was always about doing better in college, getting extra hours at work, studying more, and just doing my best. And at that point, I had so many burnouts from living like that. And then I hit rock bottom that I thought to myself, there has to be a better way. If I have these burning desires inside, if I really want to be my best self and succeed, there has to be another way. And so, a decade and a half ago, I started to prioritize myself and things that were comfortable to me. After hitting rock bottom, I realized you weren't taking care of yourself. You weren't investing in your relationships. You weren't taking time to stop or go outside and walk or have fun. Fun wasn't even a part of my life because often we think fun isn't a part of success. And that's a choice you can make. You can continue to grind, chase success, and that can be your life. And that is a reality for many people. But there's better ways. And
Mm.
so what I found was that if you invest in yourself, in self-care, if you want to call it that, and leisure, and create this kind of work-life balance or work-life harmony, you can have the things that are in your heart. You can achieve success, but you can also enjoy the journey. You can take time. You can take vacations. You can have fun. You can spend time with people you love. It's it's truly in how you make it every single day.
So you're saying that that was achievable for you, and you
Yes.
managed that, yeah?
Yes. What I did was I discovered what is my comfort zone? What am I most comfortable with? And then I expanded from that place. So I embraced discomfort and I became comfortable with more things. And self care is a big part of that. I wake up, I have a very regimented routine, but I love it. I love to exercise, it gives me more energy. I love to do gratitude. I love to journal. I love to read. Some people, they don't like those things. They think that that is work. but I love it. And so
You make
it's
time for
kind
it.
of, yeah, I love it. And I build it into my success. Like it's not something that I don't like to do or I feel like I have to do this. It's like I get to do this. I love to do this. And so I think it's just really embracing the journey, especially if you are an entrepreneur or you're someone who loves to achieve.
Yeah, I can see that. And yet, well, actually, one of the common themes that have come up with many a quote unquote successful person I've had on the podcast, the element of routine and consistency is always present. And I struggle with it so hard, Kristen. Like, if anything, I would say it's probably my biggest struggle zone because, and yet I know that it's part of the recipe. Irony, but yeah. So you're saying you have a set morning routine. Walk us through what that is.
I just want to say that I used to feel like that too, because I used to
Mm-hmm.
feel like I'm an entrepreneur for a reason. I don't need this like regimented schedule. But I actually would burn myself out because I wasn't efficient enough with my time. And I didn't build in habits that fueled me and that refilled me. And so the day
Mm.
would go by and I would be like, I spent so much time on work and it's not that I didn't want to take care of myself. It's just that I always found that I didn't have time and I was too busy. And I think a lot of us say we're too busy or we can't do something. But just like anything, once you build it in, you start to enjoy it and then you thrive in it. So I used to be there and I used to think, I'm not going to have a schedule. I love my flexibility, but a schedule is what really keeps me refueled every day.
I heard once from a specialist in nervous system regulation. She says it's not what you want to hear, but consistency is freedom, or even discipline is freedom. And for the non consistent, non disciplinarian in me, that was a bitter pill to swallow. And yet I recognize it is so necessary. But that being said, it can go the other way too. Like I had a friend over last weekend and she is very strict with herself and she would wake up, she would get to the gym at 6 o'clock in the morning. She has a high powered job and she would blow out on the weekend in a way that she said, but I feel completely out of control. And I think that was a part of her, the inner, maybe inner child, or there was an inner rebellion because the the routine became so strict it was almost punishing. So I
Mm,
think there really is a way of finding balance and not having these even self-care routines as a form of, it's just like another thing on your to-do list.
mm,
I love your mindset there of like I get to do this.
yeah.
This is special. This is me time, as opposed to being like, oh, I have to work out. I have to have a journaling practice or I have to meditate because I'm now told that that's good for my health. So a lot
Yeah.
of it really does come down to the mindset around it, I guess.
Yeah, to wanting to do it. Like for exercise, what do you love to do? And if you don't like exercise, what kind of sport or activity or where do you love to walk? There's so many ways that we can make it fun for us. And when we do that and it all adds up, it really does make our day feel more enjoyable, feel more comfortable. Even if we're doing things that others may label work or hard or something they wouldn't want to do, if you like it and you can make it enjoyable, then it totally works.
Hmm. I want to go a little bit to your childhood, actually, because it's it's such a key piece to understanding where people how people develop essentially and who they become. And I think for anyone who's on this journey of healing or self inquiry or self awareness, where you start asking more questions about who you are, there comes a time where you do reflect on your past and the relationships that you had, your mom, your dad, your siblings, and how that formed you or informed the person you would go on to become. So I'm curious about, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, where you grew up, what the dynamics with your mom, your dad were like?
Yeah, I grew up in a small town of Pennsylvania and there was four of us, my brothers and sisters, and my mom was mostly single, raising four children. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. and they didn't live too far away, about an hour, and they kind of, you know, helped my mom out, right? And so I really loved spending a lot of time with my grandma. I feel like it was nature and nurture, but I feel like I was very much like her. And even today, I feel, like we have very similar genetics. She would take so much time with me and try to show me the right way to do things and fill me up with inspiration when I was discouraged about something. And so she really left such a positive effect on me because it was difficult with four kids, in a small town. We didn't really have any neighbors, and she didn't really make very much money. And so we struggled a lot. And I learned early on that you can change your circumstances. And if you just work a little harder and try a little more, you don't have to live like this. And so the success mindset started very early for me because I saw how much she struggled, and I didn't want to live like that. And I wanted to, achieve some of these beautiful things that were in my heart. I felt like I wanted to be a writer, when I was little. And, I wanted to help people and inspire people. And I didn't really know what that was at the time, but I definitely had those big goals and dreams that most other people in my environment didn't have, growing up in a small town. So, yeah, it was definitely interesting. And it humbles me that I've achieved so much from where I began.
Mm. I'm curious because there is often a real problem in social mobility. Like, we like this idea that the rags to riches story, that you can really, the American dream, that you can change your circumstances from where you've come from. And then statistically, it's actually quite rare. And I think one common theme that I hear about that's even been proven in research. I recently had Gay Hendricks come on the podcast, and he spoke about our upper limit. And
Mm.
there's a part where we get to where we are met with our own expectations of our life, which are linked to beliefs that we have, the thoughts that then become our beliefs, which are based in our childhood, or they come from that. So I'm wondering for you whether there was any part, was there always this fierce determination of, I'm going to do better, I'm going to improve my circumstances, this isn't the life that I want to settle for? Or was there a part where you achieved a certain amount of success that you then felt like, who am I? Or who is this right for me? And then what, yeah.
Yeah, like the imposter syndrome. A lot of people say they struggle with that, but I don't really struggle with imposter syndrome. I do feel very grateful and lucky. I had such a spiritual connection when I was young, and I listened and I followed that voice and trusted. Being in such a difficult circumstance growing up, and only having to cling on to faith and hope that that what you're being guided to do will actually happen and come true. And then when it does, it's just, you feel so grateful that life really is this miracle if you can have really strong hope and faith. I mean, it can be years or decades before what are dreaming about or hoping for can happen. But it really can. And so I feel like my life is just this testimony to wanting something and pursuing it and being able to have it actually happen. I think we give up. We think that it's going to happen quicker than it does. And
Mm. There's a powerful statement. That really is. And it reminds me of a video that I came across from you where I think somebody asked you about, goodness, how do you build a community with 50 billion people worldwide? Like, this is just insane, right? Um, and the question was, how did you do it? And I think, well, I can ask you now, how did you do it? But at least in the video that I saw, you said, I showed up for 14 years. And I can tell you how hard it has been at certain points of me even showing up every week for 2 years on this podcast. And then I
wow.
put that into context of like, wow, you have been doing this for 14 years. Do you credit that to this faith and this hope that you had?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, we did it for 4 years without even monetizing it or even considering monetizing our community. It was like we were doing it to help other people. And I feel like when you're living in that place of service, even like you are with this podcast, I want to help inspire people that they can start over, that there can be a new beginning. And when you are guided with that philosophy first, and that's the core reason you're doing it, I totally believe that everything you are wanting from that can happen. It can be manifested if you believe in that or whatever you want to call it, but it does take consistency and patience and perseverance because for a while maybe nobody's going to be listening and then a little bit more and a little bit more, and we know that over time with consistency things compound and build. It just takes time. Things are not instant in this reality, unfortunately.
True, so true. Is it still recording? Did you see that dip out on my side?
Yeah, for just a second though.
Yeah, okay. I did that last time too, sorry, but I think it's... So where I want to come to, that just made me think of something I just read actually by a flow researcher called Stephen Kotler. And he was speaking about how so many of us are tempted to give up or pursue the next shiny thing, not realizing actually how significant compounding returns are. In terms of, we think, okay, I put in that little bit more effort and that little bit more, and I'm going to take one step further. But actually, at some point, you see exponential growth. And that is the reward for sticking in something. And most of us don't do it. We do the opposite, which is this isn't the result that I'm expecting or hope to achieve in this time frame. And then you step back, or you say, okay, clearly this isn't the right thing now. I could say, is this the right thing that I haven't got this amount of listens on the podcast after 2 years? Maybe it's not the right thing. Maybe I need to have a different change of direction.
I think that if you really love doing something there's an echo. Do you hear that echo?
On my side or your side? You're hearing me echo, or you're hearing yourself?
Yeah, I'm hearing myself.
Huh.
A little bit. Should I didn't move anything. Here's echo cancellation. Should I hit that in case?
You can. That's if you're not using headphones.
Yeah, I have headphones in.
Are they still connected?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. That's really... I'm going to stop the recording a second. It's just disconnected.
Okay.
So I was going to say, that reminds me so much of something that I just read by a flow researcher, Stephen Kotler. And it's about how so many of us give up essentially before we see the results that compound. So in essence, we have this shiny new object syndrome as such, where we have a bias towards going, okay, what is the new thing that I could try, thinking that's going to bring you the results you're looking for, when actually, if we have the patience and the perseverance to stick at something for a longer time, that's when we will see the exponential growth at some point. And I think one of my reflections on that, going back to what I said about knowing how much I've often struggled with consistency and discipline, is you have to do something that you really like.
Yes.
There's so much talk about, why this passion conversation is overrated or privileged in some way. But actually, if you do not enjoy what you're doing, how on earth are you going to be able to stick at something for the long term? And how on earth are you going to compete with somebody who does love it, who has an interest in getting better and sticking at it? So, yeah.
Yeah, passion is really everything. And if you can bring passion to it and gratitude, and so when you're showing up, people can feel your energy and it's fueling you and it's not draining you. think you were talking about earlier about someone who's very consistent with their habits and their schedule, but she's kind of feeling burned out. I think at that point, it's like, well, how can I pivot just a little bit to make this more passionate instead of completely changing or starting over? Sometimes when we get the nudges that we should start over, that's an intuitive thing. And if we feel that over time, it is okay to pivot or start over. Maybe there's something else that we're more passionate doing. But if we still love it, but we keep kind of hitting a wall or feeling like there's so many challenges, oftentimes that's a sign that we need to rise. There's a new skill that we need to learn. Maybe
Mm.
there's a tweak that we need to make. Maybe we need to be more innovative. There's so many different things, but it's really an intuitive journey. And if you love what you're doing, I would never tell someone to like stop doing it. Just find the roadblock and then get past that. And because you're always going to have something that can prevent you from moving forward. But if you love doing it, just have to look within and say, what do I need to do to up level? Because as our business is growing, we're growing. And if we stop growing, then our business stops growing. It's like a mirror to us.
Oh, that's so true. It makes you think of, I think, a quote by a famous personal development guy, Jim Rohn, one of the oldies. And he said something like, your level of success will never outlevel your own personal development.
Oh,
And I was like, oh, that is so true. And I've seen it myself. Like every time you hit a roadblock, it's always an invitation to step up. And it can be so, so hard. But I think that's the reality of life. And this doesn't even need to be success in your business. This could be success in any area of your life. But I think we're constantly invited to grow and evolve.
yeah. I'm reading Wallace Waddle's work, and he talks about how God or, the universe or spiritual energy, it's always looking to express itself more fully through you. And so that's why we always have this burning desire to be more. It's not that we're being greedy, it's that life loves growth, life loves expansion, and we shouldn't feel shame around that.
So true. And I think the opposite of that, which I found myself in last year, was a period of being stuck. And I think when that happens, it's because you are not growing.
Mm.
You've stagnated, and you've hit a point where you realize that you're not moving forward. And that can be quite an uncomfortable place to be in as well. So I think that just reiterates what you're saying there about there is growth that we're constantly propelled to take steps forward into that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Mm. Did you ever have any fear or doubt? I mean, I hear that you're so positive, of course, but and grateful. But did you have a lot of fear and doubt around the success of your business?
I didn't like to entertain fear and doubt, actually. And I love Louise Hay's work. And she also reiterates, especially at the time when I was early in creating my business, you know, you only want to entertain the thoughts that you want, and the things that you want to see, to really step in and to create that, and to not pay attention to appearances if things aren't working out or they're not exactly what you expect. And so that really helped me, because if you want something to work out, you have to see it working out to actually see it in real life, because your thinking is almost like a projector that's going to create what's to happen. So if your projector is that it's going to not work out, it's going to fail, um, this or that negative situation is going to happen, then you're going to project that. And so it was very intentional and very careful about what I said. When we would meet a challenge, I wouldn't see it as a problem. I would figure out, how are we going to solve this? What's the opportunity? How can we learn from this? And I never pointed blame on anyone particularly. It was just like, how can I step up and fix this? What can we do to make this better? And I think coming from that perspective makes a huge difference in the growth and success of anything that you're trying to do.
It's a reflection of a growth mindset, in fact. And I think for people who have even perfectionistic tendencies, that can be really hard because when you encounter a road bump, you'll often, or an obstacle or a problem at work or otherwise, you will perceive it as you don't have the capacity to deal with it, or that it's a
Mm,
reflection on you. And I know that that's a really common one. Like, your intelligence is fixed. I'm not smart enough to be able to deal with
mm,
this, or I don't know the right answer. And therefore, it's reframed negatively on oneself. But I'm
mm.
hearing that was just not present for you.
Well, you can't do it in that way. You don't want to point blame per se, but just know that the answer will come or it will resolve. Just having that faith, even if at the moment it looks like, oh, this isn't going to work out, or this is what the numbers are saying, or whatever the case may be. You really have to think about, how does that make me feel? And how do I want it to turn out? Instead of what might actually be happening. And you're dealing with your feelings, but you're also finding an opportunity, because before I might have masked my feelings or covered them up, but here I'm dealing with them and I'm handling it in a more positive way so I can just move through it, right? Before I would kind of avoid it, like, oh wow, this is tough. Like, and kind of live in that energy for a while. And
Mm.
that's how I found I would get stuck in something, by not being able to move through it in a more positive way quickly.
Yeah.
I would I would let my emotions guide me instead of guiding my emotions.
Oh, break that one down. Show me how that plays out in a very real example.
So I am day 51 of 75 hard. And I never imagined I would actually do 75 hard. For those who might not know what it is, it's a challenge by the CEO of First Form. It's like a vitamin company. And so you do an outdoor workout and you do an indoor workout. You also read 10 pages. You take a photo of yourself every day. You drink a gallon of water. There's some very specific rules. And I used to think, I don't think you could ever finish something like that. That sounds too difficult, right? And so when I first started, doing an outdoor workout, especially here it's wintertime, I thought, wow, am I going to be able to make it through this? I'm not really about being outside if it's rainy or cold. Um, and I realized that I was letting my emotions guide me instead of guiding my emotions. Once I started running and walking in the rain, I realized this is not going to kill me. This is fine. Like, what was I even like avoiding? Like, actually, I started finding it refreshing, that cold air, and it would invigorate me. I would get really great ideas. If there was something I was trying to figure out, it might come to me. There was so many things that I started finding positive about being outside every single day. And so I realized that before, I was letting my emotions guide me, saying, like, you shouldn't be outside when it rains, or it's too cold to go for a walk outside. Because I love nature, I love going for a walk. I was letting my emotions guide me. Now I go out every day, whether it's raining, snowing, sleet, 15 degrees. And I realized that here
That doesn't sound that bad though, girl. I live in Switzerland, and if you
yeah.
wanna know what cold is, I was skiing in -8, and then
Oh,
I was having a little bit of a whinge, I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie.
-8. Oh my gosh. But see what I mean? Here I
No, but
am in
it's
the
true, yeah.
US. It's like, in the winter time, but it's compared to your winter. Look how cold it is. But here I was letting my emotions guide me and avoiding something that, why was I doing that? And so anytime we can take over and then guide ourselves, there's freedom in that.
I see that. So what do you do, or what would you even recommend for anyone else in this situation where you're just having a bad day and you're in the dumps and you're stuck in a funk and you do have a lot of negativity come up? The lens through which you're perceiving something in front of you is like, this is a problem. This is hard. I do not want to deal with this right now. Life sucks. What happens when you get stuck in that place, and what do you recommend for people to get out of that quicker?
Yeah, everyone is different, but I love journaling. And so if you love journaling, that's a great way to move emotions and move feelings and kind of get out of that stuck place. If you don't like to journal, then I would recommend going outside. Like I was saying, nature has this amazing ability to heal us. It's so easy, but we forget how good it makes us feel. And so 15 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it takes, whatever time you have, even 5 minutes. If you only have 5 minutes, just go outside, stop thinking for a minute and give yourself some space. I think we think that if we overthink it, the solution's going to come. But often overthinking just kind of brings more and more negativity. And then we can't find the solution because it's almost like clutter in your environment. You're like, wait, oh my gosh. And it's overwhelming, right? So if we give ourselves that space and that time, the answer is going to come. We're going to get unstuck. The mood will move on, right? Because we're moving. We're kind of giving ourselves and our body a chance to get that energy out.
Yeah. The movement is a big piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in that situation myself today where I was stuck at something and really met with that question, which I think many of us have, which is, should I push through this or should I stop? Right? Like in the daily, that's often a hard one. Like, am I supposed to push through with this right now and continue? Or do I need to pause, take a break? And yeah, it's something I find myself in a lot. But then today it was okay, I'm going outside, I'm going for a run and resetting by running through a forest. And I was lucky, of course, that I'm in a situation work wise where I can do that. Um, but yeah, there is something to be said for those breaks and the resets.
I love that. Yeah, because nature, you're like, okay, even if you don't feel like going out, is nature healthy for you? Yes. Is fresh air good for you? Yes. It's often these minor, small things that we might take for granted every day that are actually going to get us out of whatever we're in. And I'm totally about, flowing, not forcing. It's almost like a door. Is the door open? Can you walk right through? Do you have to just open it? Or are you banging at it, waiting for it to eventually open? It's like you have to kind of look at something and see what's aligning and what's not.
Mm, yeah, I feel you. So I want to go to when you described earlier about a rock bottom. And what was this period like for you? And most importantly, what did you learn from that?
It's a great question. So, a decade and a half ago, I had hit rock bottom after many bouts of burnout. And at this point, I was 2 times my size. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I had just lost a very successful business that I had on eBay because I couldn't keep up with the orders. And eBay was like Amazon is today. It was booming back then. And I thought that I was doing everything, right. But what I realized is that I was forgetting myself in that chase, in that pursuit. And really, what did it for me was when the doctor said to me, you'll never have children. Your health and your hormones are so out of whack. And as a woman, that's really hard to hear. I felt like at
Mm,
that point I had lost everything. And I wasn't watching the signs that, I didn't really like shipping all of these packages to eBay. I knew that was doing something great, but I really wasn't listening to that internal voice at that time. I was young and I was naive and I was relying on my perseverance and my hard work. And at that point, I realized that, yeah, you can be an entrepreneur, but you got to do what you love and you have to invest in yourself. And so that's where my whole personal development journey started, where I kind of returned to who I really was. I asked myself a lot of questions. What do I love to do? Why am I here? All that huge inner journey that I
exactly.
think we all
Yeah.
go on. And I started over from there. And I hope not everyone has to start over through massive pain, but that's kind of how this reality is. It's kind of built that way.
Yeah, it seems to be a common theme. I mean, this is, of course, what the podcast, this was the birthplace of this, because I realized that, like myself, and I had a very difficult relationship, and that sparked that journey inward. And then I realized, hold on a second, so many of us have these stories. We're not talking about them enough, but it happens often through an immense challenge that you go, wow, this is the reset, or this is the great pause, the pause that I need
Mm.
to start, yeah, reflecting. And I think the question that you said there about what is the purpose of my life as such, that's a biggie. I mean, it comes up so much. It's like that existential crisis, almost, of like, am I living a life that I want to be living? Am I being authentic, which is what feels good in the longer term? Or am I living a life that my parents told me to live, or society told me to live, or the way that my beliefs are telling me that I think I should be operating? So, yes, I feel you in that. It's a common theme. Um, what were the takeaways for you?
Yeah, definitely work-life balance, and not in a sense that everything has to be perfectly even, but just that you are filling your cup and you're taking time for you and you're doing things that empower you and fulfill you and that feel good and that feel comfortable. I was always shaming myself for my comfort zone because I was following what society said. But when you shame something and then you never have it, it just creates so much resistance. And when I let that resistance go and I started embracing comfort and saying, this is my ally. What am I most comfortable with? What am I really good at? I love social media. I love design. I love creativity. What are these things that light me up? And then how can I use these and harness these to be of service to the world? And when we can unlock those things that are only we know inside, we're just literally unstoppable because we're waking up
Mm,
with gratitude and peace and happiness because it's created within, and it's created when we align with the things we're most comfortable with. It doesn't
hmm.
have to be a struggle.
Yeah, I so feel that. And especially around, I genuinely believe we all have a gift and a strength, a really core set of strengths that could be untapped potential if we don't allow ourselves to explore that and really develop skill in that area that we have a natural aptitude for. But I do also believe that if we are so unaligned with that part, we will be unfulfilled.
Mm, that's
You know,
so good. I love
yeah,
that.
I realized I'd been spending a lot of time on social media, a lot of time online, recording podcasts remotely. And I am an extroverted person. I am somebody who needs people around me. I love leading. I love being part of a group. I love collaborating. And it has been such an empty space in my life. And it feels like an empty space in my soul almost. Like I feel that call of, I want to connect. And I think so many of us have that. If there is something that you know that you like and that you're good at, for me, I've said I really need to get retreats going. I need to meet up with people. I know that I would be a great host. I would hold this space really beautifully. I haven't done it yet, so maybe I should make that my announcement now. Come join my retreat,
Yeah.
everyone. But it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, that is actually, I know it. That is what would make me light up and feel excited to get up and excited about my life and be in that space of positive energy.
Yeah, I love that. Maybe that's one of your gifts, untapped gifts that are like coming out from all of this. I love that.
Yeah, and I think there's a pull towards it. It's like I know that there's a sense of living in the future because I'm not doing exactly what it is that I'm meant to be doing yet. And I wonder for so many people who are in that space of asking questions about whether they're doing the right work for them, whether they're in the right life situation, if they're living in the right place, like are you living in an inspiring environment? Because environment matters. And if
Mm,
not, you're going to be thinking about it. Like your
yeah.
mind, you will dwell on it. You will daydream or dream about it. And I think it's that call, that nudge to change things, shake things up a little bit.
That did happen to me about 8 or 9 years ago in Pennsylvania. It was just always so dreary and the sun was hardly came out. If it stormed, you didn't see the sun for a day or two. And I knew when I was a child that, hey, I don't think I'm going to live in Pennsylvania my whole life. It was just kind of like a feeling that I had. But here I was still in Pennsylvania, and we started to explore different areas. And that's when I found Asheville, North Carolina. And, it was sunny and there was mountains and it's just a really big outdoor community. And sure, it takes a lot of courage to move states away from family and everything that you've ever known. But it's also this amazing adventure too, because you get to experience new culture and a new environment and discover new places. And again, this goes back to our soul wants bigger expression. And so if you're being called to move somewhere, it might not be right now, but as you explore those feelings, more opportunities and doors will open to move. But also, on the counter, more, kind of negative emotions around being where you are kind of open up too. But those are just kind of signs letting you know, like, you've outgrown this place, or you don't want to work this job anymore, or, this hobby doesn't bring me joy, or whatever it is. You get those negative emotions kind of warning you, but then you get those positive um, nudges to move forward in a different area.
It's a push and pull. A
Yes.
push and pull. Although I am curious, bit of devil's advocate here, because one of the themes or the core premise really of your latest book, The Comfort Zone, is that we need to rethink how we think about our comfort zone. We're constantly told that you need to push yourselves outside of it. That is where the magic happens. That's where the growth happens. If you don't get uncomfortable, nothing's ever going to change. And what I'm hearing here, say even in relation to moving, is there a part that could still reinforce that idea? Like, okay, you're not comfortable moving, you have some doubts around it, but you should do it and you will grow because of it. Or are you
Yeah,
saying that's not the way to think about it?
I really wasn't in a comfort zone anymore because I wasn't happy with where I was. So I did love it. We had moved to we had got our first house. We were in this small little house that was so efficient for my husband and my daughter, and it really felt good and it really worked. We had family around that could help us. But then I started getting these like feelings like, I don't know if I want to stay here. And I just kind of followed those feelings of, I'm not really comfortable here anymore. And so I'm actually saying the opposite. If you're not comfortable with where you are, where are you more comfortable? And so that's where I explored new areas. Where would I be more comfortable? Oh, wow. I love the mountains. I love Asheville. I love pine trees and nature and a community that cares about healthy living. And so I found where I was more comfortable. And so I feel like I was just expanding my comfort zone to a new place.
That is such an interesting take. I've never thought of that before, actually, in that way. And maybe going back to what we said before about the push and pull, there's a certain level of dis-ease in that situation, right? And I guess that's what you're saying here. It's like, is your comfort zone actually that comfortable?
I think it's important for us to understand what's comfortable to us, and I'm not talking about like Netflix and chill because often people who do that so consistently, they're numbing something or they're avoiding something, right? Something bigger. And so I'm really talking about like what lights you up, what actually feels good, where are your skill sets, what's comfortable, where do you want to be, and like following that intuitive. It's just a very intuitive guidance system that we have. But if we're always telling ourselves that comfortable feelings should be avoided, then how can we ever really listen to our intuition and really make decisions that will actually guide us to the place that we need to be. It's more of a spiritual perspective, but it's worked for me.
Mm. Have you got an example of when you've applied that in your own life?
Besides the move,
Mm.
yeah, where I've applied the comfort zone,
Yeah.
really really I think I use that guidance system for everything. Like, even if I want to plan a trip, sometimes I'll plan something spontaneous where it's, only a week ahead of time. Sometimes I'll plan a few months in advance, but even when it's a week ahead of time, I really go in to see, like, how does that feel? Intuitively, is that what I should be doing? And then if it feels like a big yes, then I'll just make plans around it. And we can really do this with anything, because life should be about that big yes. Otherwise, why are we doing it, right?
Mm. A big yes. Interesting.
Yeah.
So you say that if we adopt this new way of thinking about our comfort zone, we will experience more ease and flow instead of
Mm.
stress and burnout. Why do you think that is?
Stress and burnout happen when we're doing things that don't recharge us, that don't light us up, or we're doing them for too long and not doing enough of the things that do light us up. And so I really think that, again, going back to that balance of nourishing ourselves on a regular basis, building that into our lifestyle and our habits, whatever that is. Everyone's so different. For me, I love to read. And so that recharges me, that refuels me. I love gratitude. I love exercise. I love dancing with my daughters. Like, that's something that really recharges me. And so when you kind of habit stack all these experiences that feel good to you, it creates that more enjoyable experience.
Mm. I like it also because I think going back to what we said earlier about when we're experiencing a difficulty in one area of our life, it can be really easy to over focus on that. So let's say that you're really dissatisfied with your current work. And for whatever reason, that's really not lighting you up. You're not energized. You feel like you're stagnating, or at least are unhappy in some respects, and you don't really know what the next right step is. It'd be very easy to overly focus on that because of our negativity bias, even. But actually, is it really the answer that you need to change your work right now? Or is it that you can create a buffer zone around you and fill yourself up in other ways? And I've heard this from people saying that, okay, I don't feel like my business is growing. I'm not satisfied in this area, but I'm compensating right now by having more fun in other areas. I'm going out more. I'm doing more of the things that you say there that light you up, that bring you joy. And yeah, what do you think of that?
Mm. Like, just kind of dealing with the situation and buffering it with other activities.
Yeah.
I still think you want to address the situation. Often I'll go to gratitude, and if gratitude isn't working, it's like, well, then what's the core reason you're doing it? Do you love what you're doing? Do you want to continue it? How can you change the energy to not feel stuck or kind of mundane about it, right? Because when we do these other activities to kind of buffer it, it's still not, solving the core problem of I'm not fulfilled in what I'm doing.
Mm.
So there's a minor either mindset shift or a pivot, maybe a minor pivot or an adjustment to bring that fulfillment. I truly believe that what we do should fulfill us. I really believe that. And so sometimes that is a pivot. In the work that I do so many different things, right? I write books and I manage a team and I do social media. But I've learned over the years to put my energy into the things that I love the most to kind of energize me. And then the things that I'm not really crazy about, I have help for. And so if you don't necessarily have help or the capability to get help in the work that you're doing, just be aware of the things that you're not crazy about doing And what parts of it do you love to do? And then how can you put more time at doing the things that you love to do and then not do those other things that don't really light you up?
Hmm.
If that helps.
It does. No, it's a good thing to think about for sure. So I want to go over to a little bit about children actually. So I heard there you have a couple of girls, and I'm wondering what are some of the things that you do with your girls even that help them to create a more positive mindset?
Gratitude, I know I mentioned that before, but gratitude is so important. We have to be grateful for what we have. And, everyone talks about it, but it really is the foundation is being grateful for what's here, what's to come. I also think having faith was a core thing when I was a child, and so it's definitely a core thing for my children because we do live in a reality with struggles, with problems, and to get through that we do need to have a very strong faith to overcome those challenges. And so I think that's a very core thing that I like to teach them and to reiterate almost on a regular basis because for example when they're at school I don't know were they bullied, did they fall down, did they get a bad grade on a test, all of these things that are things that happen to us but we need a positive mindset and outlook to get past them.
Hmm. I can just so see how much you radiate positivity. Like it is just so lovely to see. I obviously speak with so many people as well, see a lot of people. And I think so many people are unhappier than they let on. And
Mm,
so many people are more negative as
mm.
well. And I can see how easy it is to fall into the trap of staying in complaint or staying in negativity. And
I think when we build it into our lifestyle, it just fills our cells and it fills our energy. And sure, every day is not perfect, but when we're going through something, we can kind of find ways to pivot or find ways to see the silver lining. And I just think that's so important that we build that lifestyle so that no matter what we're going through, we're resilient.
It is such a resilient factor, isn't it? Or a contributing factor towards resilience. I
Yeah.
think a big part of that also is humor and having fun. And it's like a missing piece a lot of the time, I find, especially when you're in that phase of adulthood that's very responsibility focused, right? And it's like amongst all the things you have to do, it's yeah, I think we don't make enough space to really be silly and have fun and make jokes
Mm.
and be light.
Yeah, with two girls, jokes and humor, it goes about like, just like the potty jokes is usually where their humor is,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it happens all the time in our house. I'm like, well,
Yeah, that's
there's
so
always
true.
humor going on.
Well, I think my son like fell in love with me the day that I started making poo jokes. I don't know what it is about boys, but if you stick with poo and farting, like
Yeah.
you've nailed it.
It's the same with girls. You're like, do we go any further? No, even, my oldest is 12 and it really is just the classic best way to laugh for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And much easier because I'm not putting myself as like the next Ricky Gervais or another famous comedian. So let's
Yeah,
keep the bar low in that area of my life.
exactly.
I'm going to move in to a final fast few questions now, Kristen. And the first thing I wanted to ask is what is something that you used to believe about yourself, about your life, that you no longer believe?
Can I talk about the public speaking situation?
Go ahead.
Yeah, when I was a child, I thought that, well, I liked attention and I thought, oh, I could be the leader of a group or I could volunteer and speak on this project. And I had so many, to me at the time, negative experiences that I thought, I think public speaking really isn't for me. Even in high school, I thought I went and joined kind of the AV tech team and I did like the morning show in our high school. And my voice would always get really low and I would get really shaky and really nervous. And my friend would say, "You do such a good job off camera. Like, what's going on? What happens when the camera comes on?" And I'm like, I don't know, you know? And so I kind of built this belief system that you shouldn't public speak. That's just not your area. That's not your skill set. That's not your strength. Just kind of maybe forget about that. And then a few years ago, my coach kind of guided me to start going on video more and encouraged me to be a public speaker. And I thought, no, you don't understand. You don't know me. That's not my personality. It's not a strength that I have. And I don't even think that can be developed. And when I really started digging in and looking back at my past and journaling about the beliefs that I had, I realized that it was very limiting based on small experiences that I had as a child. I built all of these belief systems around these, few minute experiences that happen when I'm 6, 8, 12, 20, just these little things that built up over time that created this huge belief system. And then I did this RTT training. Have you ever heard of RTT with Marissa Peer?
Transformational therapy. I have heard of that. A lot of that is subconscious rewiring, right?
Yeah. And I realized, and that's how I knew about these memories, because I hadn't consciously had these memories. But then when we explored my subconscious, all these memories came out. And I thought, oh, wow, I was holding on to these things. I had no idea. And when I let go and I cut the cords, and then I started listening to this kind of like affirmation program on a daily basis, it was just like a 30-minute recording with very empowering beliefs that she put together based on our coaching session. Anyway, it really started to change the way I thought and the way I felt. And then last year, I did a few public speaking engagements and I realized that I loved it. I loved connecting with people in that way. I loved, you know, um, teaching. And so that was a limiting belief that I just thought was who I was. I just thought, it's not a skill set. That's not who you are. But actually, it was just something that I created out of just a few experiences I strung together.
I love that. Love that story. The process of overcoming limiting beliefs. It's not an easy one, but I think you've really hit the nail on the head there with the subconscious rewiring. I have heard of Marissa Peer because I, maybe like many people who are listening to this podcast, had heard the chilling statistic